Hey everybody, Dan here with Pain Free You. So, unusual setting here. I'm at my mom's house. And so today's topic is going to be something I witnessed personally today. And it's called The Impact of Fear on Symptoms. So, I'll get into that in a minute. I'll tell you the story behind why I'm here. So, if you would, take a breath in. Breathe in some peace. Exhale the noise. Breathe in the wisdom. Exhale the uncertainty. Breathe in the confidence. Exhale the fear. So you hear my mom's clocks. She's this is like Geppetto's workshop. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A grandfather clock over there. There's another one across the way. It literally sounds like Geppetto's workshop in here with tick tock, and on the hour when things start chiming, it gets quite loud in here. So what the heck am I doing at my mom's? So my mom had an aneurysm and had it operated on 14 years ago. And as a result of that, periodically, not that often, maybe once or twice a year, she'll have what we'll call an episode where she tends to lose the ability to find her words and get sentences and phrases out. And this actually happened right after surgery. They determined there was some mild seizure activity in the part of the brain where the surgery was done, and the seizure activity in the portion of the brain that operates speech caused her inability to speak and get words out. So like I said, every maybe once or twice a year she will get what she says feels kind of like a little bit of a headache or a migraine, atypical migraine, and she'll have an episode. She's been to the hospital a couple of times or a few times over the past 14 years. Well, yesterday was another one of those examples. So, basically she called me, says, "Oh, I got a headache. I don't know if I'm feeling too good." But she sounded all right. And I said, "Well, as we've done in the past, let's ride it out and see what happens." Usually she calms down and everything's fine. But by 9 p.m. when my sister called my mom, she wasn't finding words at all. So my sister rushed over, got her to the hospital, and by 11:20 they were checked in, and they're doing some tests, CAT scan, all that kind of stuff, ruling out things like stroke or brain bleeds or anything significant or life-threatening, which is what we're supposed to do. But by 2:30 in the morning, I get a frantic call from my sister. Mom's getting worse. She can't get any words out. She just looks at me with a blank stare. I don't know if she's going to die or what's going to happen. And so I jumped in my truck and drove the hour and a half up to to the hospital where my mom was. And it was a wild ride from about 4:30 in the morning when I got there. I stayed in the hospital until about 1 in the afternoon. But by about 9:30 in the morning, she started doing a little bit better, starting to form some words and phrases and doing a little bit better. And side note, my mom is very anti-medicine, very afraid of medicine, claims she is highly sensitive to it. So there's a lot of fear surrounding medication. So this afternoon, they tried a medication for anti-seizure. And what they determined, they had her all connected to the electrodes and doing a big EEG, got the heart monitor on. So they ruled out a stroke and a bleed with the CAT scan. But because they did clips in her brain for the aneurysm, she can't go in an MRI machine. So, we suspected possible seizure activity, saw a couple neurologists today. But this afternoon they put her on an anti-seizure medicine. And she wasn't thrilled about it. She's very anti-medicine. But we were like, all right, Mom, well, this is the best way to find out if it's seizure activity because we can't do the MRI, so let's try it. And it was wild. By I guess I got back to the hospital by about quarter to 8, just about as visiting hours were ending. But she was asleep when my sister left. But it was wild. The medication really helped, and for the first time in like 24 hours, Mom was speaking, conversing normally, and I think the medication was really helping. So here's the rub. They were telling her that, at 10 o'clock at night, they were going to do another dose of the medication. She says, no, do it tomorrow. I don't need another dose. I'm speaking fine. I'm okay. And she really worked herself up into a big fear over the medication. So, we convinced her that, hey, look, this is the best you've spoken since you had this episode start. Most likely that was the medication, so let's keep it at a therapeutic level and just trust the doctors to kind of get her steady and stable again. So here's the topic of the video, the role of fear on symptoms. So all the while, ever since the medication kicked in, from probably about 8 o'clock till I would say 10:15, she was kind of back to herself, having normal conversations. Words were flowing, sentences flowing. We talked about the medical hospital stay, but we also talked about other things. And she was doing great. And so the doctors had ordered, and the nurses were telling her that we need to keep it at a therapeutic level, so let's do another dose. She was very anti, didn't want to do it. Let's do tomorrow. I don't need it. I'm talking well now. And so she was convinced to allow the medication to go, and it was IV through the IV tube. And towards the end of the 15 minutes or so of the IV drip, she was like, I don't like this. Tell them to stop. Tell them to stop. Why? I'm feeling dizzy. I'm getting hot. Tell them to stop. Tell them to pull it out. Tell them to stop. And she got more and more and more frantic. And within the course of about 5 or 10 minutes, as she started to go along with this deep fear over the medication, she did have a little dizziness. That was legit. And she said she was feeling warm, probably from the medication. I said, well, Ma, it's a trade-off. Maybe there's a little bit of a weird feeling when you're getting it, but it's worth it. You got your voice back. You got your words back. But she got very frantic. Oh, I'm dizzy. Tell them to stop. Take it out. Oh, I'm getting hot. I don't like this. I don't want to take it. Maybe I can use a little dose, but I don't need another dose. And she got so afraid. And what happened? She started to lose her words again. And so we wrote it out. The nurse came in. And fortunately, it was at the end of the dose anyway. So they disconnected everything. And I hung out a little bit longer. And through just kind of changing the topic and getting her out of that pit of fear, guess what happened? She started finding her words again. So the impact of fear on symptoms. If you're in this TMS space, this mind-body space, fear escalates symptoms. No doubt about it. Sends you into the stress response. Adrenaline, cortisol, heart rate, blood pressure, everything goes up. I could actually see it on the heart monitor that you went from like a resting heart rate of about 80, 83, and when she was getting really angry, it was jumping up into the 90s and over 100, maybe up to 105. And the higher her heart rate got, the more angry she got, the more fearful she got, the worse her speech got. And once we had it pulled out and she could see the IV was no longer connected, she was no longer getting anything that she was fearful of, she started to calm down. And by the time I left, maybe about 45 minutes later, her speech was coming back. So it was a really good experience for me to observe. First of all, to be there for my mom. My sister was there for much of the day. My brother showed up. So everybody kind of rallied around. My sister got her to the ER and was there with her all night until I could show up. And I went with her when they checked her into the room, and they made special arrangements because with COVID, visiting hours are like from noon to 8 p.m., but the other 16 hours, patients are on their own. And we had to make a case with the floor nurse that when she couldn't speak, she could not even advocate for her own health. So we had to be around, and they were willing to work with us. But I finally got the boot tonight. But fortunately, I was there for my mom as she was taking that second dose, and was there to kind of help her ride out that fear and bring it down. And by the time I was leaving, she was in a pretty good place. So again, the impact of fear on symptoms is very strong, which is why I say what? And come on, what's my favorite phrase? Nobody ever got better by freaking out, right? If you can't be indifferent, at least don't freak out. Because fear just screams danger, and when the brain senses danger, the entire system, nervous system, gets elevated. And so the best thing you can do, if you're in a bad, dark place and you're really afraid, is to move towards calming down those fears. And we do that through the accurate knowledge, the assessments, determining that yes, this mind-body stuff is the only thing that is going on. And now in my mom's case, this was some legitimate stuff. They saw some seizure activity on the EEG. But even in legitimate stuff, legitimate meds, legitimate episodes, seizure activity in the brain, loss of speech, all real stuff, not TMS at all. But I watched firsthand, in real time, as her fear levels rose, her symptoms, meaning her ability to speak, dramatically decreased. And so I want to share with you this story just to let you know that if you find yourself feeling your pain increase and you fall into that pit of fear and despair and worry and frustration and anger and everything else, and everything is building and the chaos is building and your symptoms go up, it's not a surprise. It's not a coincidence. And look, sometimes our symptoms or our pains can increase seemingly out of nowhere. And yes, that is true. TMS is very unpredictable. But the key is how we choose to respond to the symptoms is the most powerful thing we have to shorten the duration and lessen the intensity of those symptoms. Because fear absolutely intensifies things, and calm absolutely settles things down. And I did tell my mom the same things I tell you guys. Hey Mom, you're 84 years old. Just think of this. You've made it through every single bad day you've ever had. And yes, the past 24 hours has been really pretty crappy. But you're going to make it through this one too. And that kind of brought a little bit of a smile to her face. So I'm going to wrap it up. Depending upon how the next day or two goes, that'll determine if I break my streak of 800 and some odd videos in a row. I almost broke the streak today and just put up an old video and just said, hey, Mom's in the hospital, no new video, watch this old one. But I was really moved by the impact of fear on her symptoms, her ability to speak in a very real medical situation. But I just watched. Fear went up, symptoms got worse. Fear came down, symptoms got better. I really wanted to share that with you. So say a prayer for my mom. She's doing better. We're figuring out the meds, and once we get that stabilized, she'll probably get out of there and get back home. So, love you guys and gals. Thanks for listening to the story. I'll thank you in advance because I know I'm going to get an outpouring of well wishes from my mom. I'm sure she will appreciate it. And love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.